Good afternoon, and happy Friday. I hope you guys have had a great week thus far. We are back to talk to you about electric vehicles and how it impacts the African American community. And so today we are going to be talking about incentives and rebates. We want to thank our sponsors, Cal ETC and ET Community, and we're going to jump right in. I'm going to introduce Miss Agune
Hi.
Akugo. I always mess it up. Akugo. Miss Lena Doyle. And we have a special guest today. Her name is Graciela Garcia, but I'm going to call her Grace because it's easier.
Yes.
And she's from the California Air Resources Board. And so first I want to have Agune kind of give us a background and talk about the Prove It campaign. And then we're going to kick it over to Miss Grace so she can give us kind of a presentation about incentives and rebates.
Well, hi everyone, Agune. Welcome back to the Luncheon, the Green Bag Luncheon. So basically the Prove It campaign, we reach out to communities of color and priority communities to help educate and outreach to these communities on the benefits of driving electric, not only the health benefits, but the financial benefits and all around the earth benefits for driving electric. So our Prove It campaign is dedicated to educate communities of color, priority communities, and influence these communities to share insight and collect information on what we can do to make these people transition with the rest of the world in electric vehicles. So yeah, that's a little update from Prove It campaign.
So basically, we are reaching out to you to make sure you have all of the information that you need to make an informed decision to go out and figure out if this is the best option for you, if maybe a different mode of transportation may be a better option, but we want you to be armed with the information that you need in order to do that. Thank you very much, Agune. And with that, I want to introduce Ms. Grace. Can you give us a little bit of your background and then jump right into your presentation, please?
Yeah, thank you. Grace Garcia from the California Air Resources Board. So I been working for the state for about, I guess, 13, 14 years now. And I've primarily worked in, on the incentive side, and that's anywhere from farm equipment to the big heavy duty trucks you see out there to lawn and garden equipment. But most recently, my focus has really been on implementation and policy around incentive programs. Like how are we going to get people into clean cars? And especially now that the governor's wanting us to sell 100% electric vehicles by 2035. So that's really been my focus the last couple of years. So today I'm going to talk about a couple of the incentive programs that we have. We do have statewide programs. We have programs that are regional. So today I'll kind of focus on the incentives that are available in our region, in the Sacramento area. So we do have our biggest and most well-known program is the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project. And so this program is available statewide. It's available for new vehicles only. And so this program, with a number of other programs that I'm going to talk about today, unfortunately are out of funding and are either on wait list or closed. The Clean Vehicle Rebate Project is one of those. I know that's probably not helpful for those of you that are in the market or are interested in getting an EV, but know that, we're waiting for the legislature to give us more money. They've committed to it. So I just wanted to assure everyone of that. And so aside from the rebate project, with the rebate, that's post-purchase. So you have to buy the car first and then apply after to get the rebate. That might not be helpful to some folks. So we have other programs where you can apply the incentive kind of on the hood or at the point of purchase. And so those programs, one of them is the Clean Cars for All program. And the Sacramento Air Quality Management District, I know that's a mouthful. They're the ones that implement the program in the Sacramento area. This program in particular, not only do you get the funding on the hood, but you can also stack it with the CVRP rebate. And so that kind of, I think it's like the last total was like up to $9,500 if you get an eligible electric car. And so The Clean Cars for All program, however, does require you to scrap or basically destroy an existing gas-powered car. And so we have that program available in the Sacramento area, which is also on waitlist right now. And we also have financing programs, which are newer. And so we do have a statewide financing program that helps folks get like a low interest financing like loan to get into a vehicle, or you can get, I believe it's up to a $5,000 grant to apply to the point of purchase when you get your car. So there, in addition to that program, there is a regional program for that as well, aside from the statewide, and it's only like, I think 13 counties in Northern California, and Sacramento is one of them. The unique thing about the local program is they not only help you get into an electric car, but they kind of take your whole financial picture and help you figure out, you know, if one, could you even like figure out how much you can afford to make payments, you know, for a car on a monthly basis. So they kind of take more of a holistic approach and help people improve their financial situation. So that's something that's unique to that program.
I have a question.
Yeah, jump in at any time.
While you're talking about these programs, can you use multiple programs or can you only use one program at a time?
You can use multiple programs. So say, for example, you have an old car you want to get rid of. You can go through the Clean Cars for All program. You can get a dollar amount for scrapping that car or essentially destroying it. And then if you want to buy a new or used electric car, you get an additional incentive on top of that. If you happen to get a new car, you can even stack the rebate on top of that. So I think between the two programs, it's upwards of like $14,000 you can get back. And so there is stackability, as we call it, amongst the programs. And then you can even apply financing on top of that if you choose to get a loan. If you choose to get the grant of the financing program, which is the $5,000, you wouldn't be able to stack that with the Clean Cars for All. So there's little, like, full disclosure, when we built these programs, they were built in silos. And so the nuances and the eligibility requirements are all different. And that's something that we're looking at to kind of streamline the process. It's like to not make it so hard for folks to get into these programs and have access to these funds. So the answer to your question is yes, you can stack under certain scenarios.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. And so let's see, there was Clean Cars for All, CVRP, financing, and then one other set of programs that we have. We recognize that, you know, sometimes car ownership isn't for everybody. They don't want the responsibility, or they can't afford it or whatnot, or they live in an area that's like has really good transit. We do have programs that offer, we call them clean mobility options. And so that's like car sharing or ride sharing, either placed in specific communities, you know, where you don't have to worry about, you know, owning a car. You can just rent a car for a few hours and go run your errands and go about your day. So we do have those as well. So I'll pause there if any folks have questions. I know it's a lot of info, and we do have, the good news is there are a number of tools out there online that kind of help you. You can just punch in some information and, you know, see what your eligibility is or what you could be, what you could qualify for. And so I can pull up a few of those. The bad news is there's a lot of them, so sometimes it gets confusing. But I have a few here that I can pull up.
That's the good news too. The more options, the better, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of information out there, and I know it's it can get kind of overwhelming. So let's see.
I actually have a question as well.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to take advantage of these incentives and rebates, is this something that they would have to start the process before they start looking for a car? Or let's just say someone's looking for a car and they find one. Is there a delay? Like, do you have to apply for them?
Yes. And so for the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project in particular, because it's a rebate, you have to know what kind of car you want. You have to actually buy the car before you can apply for the rebate. You know, right now with the economic downturn and the pandemic hitting, you know, our program administrators, typically it was like a 90-day turnaround, which again is we recognize as long to begin with. It's even longer now, just processing time. So just there is a delay in getting funds out. We are constantly trying to work towards getting that window closed. And so I think, last year was kind of a unique year, but for that program in particular, it's after the fact. For the financing and the Clean Cars for All programs, you don't have to, I guess you could shop for the car, and then I guess you would have to figure out what you want prior to applying as well.
Okay.
That answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So I have a
Yeah.
question about the mobility options. I
Mhm.
mentioned earlier that, we were on a call and someone said, okay, well, what can we do to get you out of your vehicle? And I think the response across the board was like, nothing. We need our cars. Like, we're not trying to get on the bus or any of that.
Yeah.
What strategy are you employing? Because different communities have different mindsets, right? Different mentalities. And
Yeah.
I know for us, we've always been taught that you need to be independent and have your own. So what strategies are you guys looking at as the California Air Resources Board looking at to kind of not change, but kind of change those mentalities to encourage people to use public transit and other options?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So one of the strategies we've been working on is, kind of looking at the outreach we've been doing and tailoring it to, whatever area of the state that we're going to be in. We do want to make sure that we like to give folks a chance to experience the vehicles for themselves. So again, our program administrators, oh my goodness, did anyone else hear that ringing? No? Okay. Oh. So yeah, our program administrators that go out and do outreach in the communities, they often organize ride and drive events. So they work with the local community-based organizations to kind of get the word out. And we try to encourage folks to come to these events and test drive a car. And we try to gauge, take post surveys, how did you feel in the car? And folks were just like, I didn't know that was so quiet, or I didn't know it was so easy to drive. I didn't know how fast these cars are. If you've ever driven an electric vehicle, it goes 0 to 100 and it's insane. You have to be careful and not crash the car. So that is one strategy that that's been pretty effective, is doing the ride and drive events. Again, with the pandemic, that kind of stopped everything. Another strategy is, when we go out and do events, that we have simple fact sheets, or the outreach staff are educated on the nuances of the different programs and kind of giving that holistic picture. This is how much you could potentially get if you get a battery electric car. This is how much you could get if you get a plug-in hybrid electric car. Say if you're still a little anxious about going 100% electric, there are plugins available. There's money available. And we also have, more recently from our programs, we don't just provide money for the incentives like Clean Cars for All and financing. They do give funding. I think it's up to $2,000 if you want to install a charger at your home, or they provide a portable charger, or they give a transit card. So we're also trying to provide a more holistic approach, or a complete package for folks. Cause it's one of the most common comments we get is, well, there's no charging in my area, or charging costs money too. And so those are a couple of the strategies that we've been trying to deploy to convince folks to get into electric cars.
Now, I know with the Prove It campaign, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Gude.
Oh, I just had a question. Who is your target audience, or demographic or age group for these rebates? Who are you guys reaching out to? What age group? Because I know personally for me, I'm 23, and if I wasn't working in this industry, I personally wouldn't know about any of these rebates. So who are you guys targeting? Who are you guys outreaching to educate on these type of incentives?
Again, that's a great question. For the rebate program in particular, that program, when it was established, it was initially intended for the new car buyer, which is predominantly affluent white folks. And so most recently, we've kind of shifted our focus and said, okay, we need to focus on, moderate and lower income communities. And so we what we've been trying to do is we've started working more closely with community-based organizations to get the word out. And the Clean Cars for All program, they did like a campaign before the pandemic hit with social media influencers to kind of get the younger audience. For communities of color in particular and lower income communities, again, we've been heavily leveraging on building partnerships with community-based organizations, because the last thing we wanted to do was have a bunch of government employees come into communities and say, hey, you should buy this electric car. Like, we really wanted to start working with folks that know their communities, know their audience, they're trusted in the community. And that's really across all of our programs, not just the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project. In the Clean Cars for All and financing programs, those are specifically focused for low income. Like, that's the target demographic for that.
Is there like an income cap on any of these, or?
Yes, another excellent question.
Right? Like fire.
So for the yeah, no, I'm ready for it.
That's that 23. She just made 23 last week, and she's like, I'm about to live my best life on this call.
And so let's see. So for financing assistance and Clean Cars for All, it's based on the federal poverty level. And so financing assistance is at or below 400% of the federal poverty level. Clean Cars for All, the cap, so the Clean Cars for All, the incentives are tiered based on what federal poverty level you fall into. So the first one is 400%. The second one's 300%, and the last one is at or below 225. And so the lower you go, the bigger the incentive is. For the Clean Cars, or for CVRP, or the Clean Vehicle Rebate Program, we do have an income cap for the standard rebates for the higher income folks. And that's 150 for single filer, 300 for joint. No, 300,000 for head of household, and I think it's, or did I get that wrong? So there's a cap for higher income folks, and it's dependent on what your tax filing status is. Complete brain fart, sorry about that. And then for the lower,
you're doing great.
Thank you. So we're doing for also the rebates, we also do a higher rebate if you qualify as low income, and that's at or below 300% of the federal poverty level. So with CVRP, it's like that 2-tier, like we're still trying to get rebates out to the mass market or the typical new car buyer. But since then, that shifted focus, and we started offering rebates for middle and lower income folks.
So I have a comment.
Yep. Shoot, let me have it.
So I appreciate that you guys are working so hard to get people into the vehicles, especially in low income communities. But you're talking about people that are 400% below the federal poverty level. Where are they going to get chargers from? These are people who are not homeowners. They probably can't afford to install a charger station in their home. Like, I get what you're trying to do, and it's righteous, but at the same time, I don't think it's like totally thought through all the way. We're talking about a group of people who already don't have. And so, like how are you guys coming when you're thinking about these things? How are you coming up with your plan and your implementation plan? Because to me, just from the outside looking, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, and it doesn't. And that's a great point, and I think, unfortunately, it was a result of these programs being built in silos and not, they were built in a rush. And so these items weren't considered in the beginning, but now that we are looking at it, as I mentioned before, we're trying to look at more of a holistic approach. So like for the financing and Clean Cars for All, yeah, we give money for folks that can get charging installed, but we also started offering the charging cards and the portable chargers as an option as well. And we do also direct folks to contact their local utilities as well, because again, even if you can get a charger installed at your house, depending on when you charge, your utility rate or your bill can shoot up. So we've been adding that into our outreach as well to give that holistic picture. you know, it's slow and there's a lot more that we need to do. And I think, you know, us participating in meetings like this and meeting with different communities, like, and getting this feedback is really important for us. So the work has started, but we have a lot more to go.
So I have a question in the chat from Ray Kemp. Hey, Ray. He says, what's the typical cost of in-home charger installation?
That is an excellent question. You know, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I can find out and follow up.
So Ray, we'll get back to you. We know Ray well. We'll get back to you. He also made a comment and he said that lower income families need warranties for those batteries because they're not cheap. So I don't know if that's something that you guys have discussed or looked into, but I think there's a lot of merit to that comment as well.
Yeah, that's a great comment. And that's something we've been looking at. So the state legislature had established a program for us to tackle that piece in terms of, you know, the batteries wearing down and not being as reliable. And, you know, what are we going to do if somebody gets into a car and then a year later the battery needs to be replaced and it's really expensive. And so there is a program that we're trying to get off the ground called the Zero Emission Assistance Project. And so it's really looking at ensuring that, you know, as we're incentivizing these cars, that we kind of pack on a warranty like guarantee or a, you know, battery replacement cost like attached to that. So in the event their battery goes out, it's already covered with this additional incentive. Unfortunately, the legislature has not given us money to get this program started, but we are doing the work, like building out the framework now. So in the event we do get funding to support it, we can implement that as well.
I'm getting
all the questions
on my phone.
Oh.
So shout out to Miss Carolyn. Hi, Miss Carolyn. Say hi to Miss Carolyn, y'all.
Hi, Miss Carolyn.
Hey, Miss Carolyn.
He says, can you talk more about how our community can get involved in the rulemaking process to make sure our voices are heard as these decisions are being made?
Yeah, and that's another great question and an area that we have started exploring and have you know, a lot more work to do. So for the incentive programs in particular, each year we go through our funding plan process, and it essentially tells our board what the status of our programs are, what kind of feedback we've been getting, and then proposing out of the governor's budget how much we want to allocate to each of the programs. But we also talk about program changes, right? So each year we kind of revisit and relook at all the programs and say what's working, what's not working, what can we change, what can't we change, and we establish this public process for that. Again, you know, full disclosure, in the past, you know, these meetings have been with our broader stakeholders like the auto groups, Cal ETC. They haven't really been community focused. That is now changing. And so this year we're looking to expand our outreach as we're developing this funding plan so that we can invite folks to come out and give us their thoughts on the programs, or even folks that have gone through the program and said, you know what, this didn't really work for me. This is what I'm struggling with now. Like, that's really good feedback for us to hear. And we do get feedback now from the community level from our program administrators, but I think, again, it would be good for folks to come to the table as, you know, we're developing these policies and making program changes. So I can actually put my email in the chat if folks want to shoot me an email, and I can connect you to some of the meetings that we have coming up on these programs, because we're actually in the middle of the funding plan process right now.
If you say it, I can add it, but you have to say it real slow.
Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. It's GRACIELA. So it's my first name and then period. Last name Garcia, GARCIA. And that's at arb.ca.gov. So that'd probably be easiest for folks to reach out to me directly, and I can get you to the right email list, or even just send you a list of some upcoming meetings that we have within this month even.
And to answer Ray's question real fast, Ray, the average cost, the national average cost is $1,200 to install a charger at your house.
Okay.
a home
The
charging station.
But I think that's assuming if your electrical panel can support that, right? Because I think there's some homes that they might have to get a new panel or to ensure that they're
Yeah, and it goes all the way up to
Yeah.
4,500. So yeah, depending on your how it's set up. But one thing I wanted to point out was that so as the new way that's taking place, they're going to start installing the chargers within the home. Is that correct? Because I noticed that they have the largest net zero, no carbon community being built right now in Southern California. 21,000 homes in Southern California, and all of them this is the first in the nation, a community like this with no carbon footprint, and they all have the chargers installed within each homes as well. So to me, when I see something like that, they just it was a huge story about that 2 days ago. And I said, okay, so now they're starting to build these homes with the chargers in them.
Wow.
Only you would know that.
Google is a hell of a drug.
Well, I'm a huge CNBC. I watch CNBC. That's my channel, and they did a whole story on that.
But do you think that they're moving like not too fast, but like, yes, that's like cool that they have a whole community, no carbon footprint, but there's still communities that don't have chargers at all. So how do we ensure equity is like this whole transition is going in an equitable manner? And I feel like it's the government's like responsibility to make sure that happens, and like where this investment is going. Like I'm not seeing it in like the communities that I'm personally in. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Like you would not do a no carbon in some places in Sacramento. Yeah. So
well, and then when you look at it, because I think it was kind of a great idea to like bring in faith-based organizations and say, hey, let's get you to buy into this conversation, which is great. However, if the church is going to have like charging stations on the property, I think there should be like a cash incentive for the church to have to be able to support that.
Mm-hmm.
Not just say, it's not just enough to say, okay, well, we want to help you, we're going to put a charging station here. That to me that's not enough. Like it's a business, right? And, when you're asking people to be a part of something and not offering the supports that they need to actually be a part of it, it kind of doesn't make sense. And again, that's one thing where we're saying, hey, we want to help you, we want to do this, but we don't really put the resources in to make sure that that's there. So I told you 30 minutes was going to fly by quickly. We're at 28 minutes and 42 seconds.
I'm more than happy to come back and continue the conversation.
Absolutely. We want to get Julius McIntyre on here too. He does transportation for the speaker. That's my friend. He just posted something. He said he's a huge Selena Pryor fan. I'm more of a Julius McIntyre fan, and so hopefully we can get him to come on and have some comments as well. But I love the way this conversation is going. I love the information that we're giving out, and I think it's really giving people something to think about. And that's what we want to do. We want to provide the information, give you something to think about. We're engaging the community. We're educating, engaging, and empowering our community to take a seat at the table so that we're not a menu option. With that, I'm going to give Ms. Miss
Grace, yeah.
Right. I'm gonna mess that up every time. So I'm gonna let you have the final words, and we're gonna see you guys next week at our EV forum.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me. And again, I hope this was helpful. If it wasn't, or if I didn't answer everyone's questions, like please let me know. And I'm always happy to come back and continue the conversation.
It was more than helpful.
Yeah, and I'm putting your email address up there just in case people have questions and they want to ask.
Yep. I'm happy to meet with folks separately as well. If you want your own meeting, like we're here to open door policy.
Open door policy. I love it. So here's a resource for you. Agune.
Thank you.
Lena.
You're welcome.
All right, you guys.
No, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys for coming today. Thank you guys for watching today. And with that, have a wonderful weekend and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.